Welcome to the Hangin Banners podcast with your hosts, Tyler Witt.
How about this block here by Tyler Witt? You're going to see him get out in front, and he's going to get a key block that springs this play.
Jack Coachman.
And here he is, having the time of his life.
And Ryan Sartori.
Maybe short, but he's thick.
That's thick with two C's at the end.
Welcome back. It's episode 20, and man, the revolving door just keeps revolving. Tyler Witt is here today. Ryan Sartori here today. Jack Coachman might show up later in the show. We're unsure, but the fact of the matter is Hangin Banners episode 20 is here for you. And Tyler Witt, how are you, brother?
Well, unfortunately, my voice may not be here for the whole episode. So
New game.
My flu pod right here. We're hanging on by a thread, but we're here to. I'm glad to be back. I felt like something's been missing from my life the past couple weeks, and it definitely has been this podcast. So,
well, I'm happy to have you back. We're happy to have you back. Everybody's happy to hear your grovelly, oddly tantalizing voice. I'm sorry.
It's my good ASMR voice, right? Like, and now you will hear the crinkling of a bag.
I've heard a lot of things in life. I've never heard somebody with the flu do ASMR until today. But obviously we know the past couple of weeks have been a little odd for you because of the XFL, you guys trying to get the DC Defenders off the ground. And I guess an update is in order from the XFL. The first thing that I want to talk about, though, is a moment that I thought was pretty cool and something that was captured on camera by the DC Defenders social media team. Is that this past week, you guys had a joint practices with the Tampa Bay Guardians.
It's Orlando Guardians.
The Orlando Guardians. And on the Orlando Guardians is an old friend of yours who I'll let you fill everybody in a second. But a very cool moment, and I'll let you take over.
Yeah. Man, it was my friend Xavier Furcron played in high school with him he's one of my closest friends from high school. Mm-hmm. And he went to Southern Illinois. Nothing really happened to him immediately after. Really bided his time and he got drafted in the XFL, and he was on the Orlando Guardians. So I was able to, be there with him for a practice for the first time. And geez, it's really going to date me like 10 years, like almost 10 years, I think. I don't know.
Jeez, Grandpa.
Yeah. Old. But it was very surreal to get to see him play, to see, to be able to talk with him about football again and like stuff like techniques and just, have that similar mindset again. It was great. And they were able to, they got that really good picture of us. It's probably one of my favorite pictures ever, and I'll cherish it forever.
That's something that you need to get printed out and like signed by your buddy, sign it for your buddy. You know what I mean? And like, that's something that's got to go in the man cave one day when man caves are had by both parties.
No, absolutely. And man, he's been through a whole lot, but his
story is actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, he's been through a whole lot, but
and not to go like full like Mel Kiper like on draft night with his story, like how like crazy, like this is the biggest day of his life. Let's talk about the worst moment ever. But like he's been through a lot. He's lost a lot of people close to him in his life, and he still is like, from my understanding, and I don't know him very well, but it's just like his personality and the stories that I've heard from other people, just knowing him through third parties, is that he's still one of the most positive people in the world.
Yeah, that's 100%. I can back that. Man, another like surreal moment about it is my mom, she got the picture and she's been there through Z's life, and she shared it with Z's grandmother, and she like was so overjoyed. She actually called my mom and heard her voice for like the first time since high school. And man, it's just like to see this come to fruition for him and to be there at the same time as him. Like there's something really surreal about it. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad to be a part of it. We play them in Orlando during our season, so I'll be able to maybe do a jersey swap or maybe just for a picture. But
That's awesome. Regardless, that's still something to add to the shadow box, right? Like when you guys put the whole thing together, like that'll be something very cool. Interesting to note, like for anybody out there who doesn't know who Xavier Furcron is, this guy at one point was the strongest player in college football.
yeah,
Like it was a known thing. Like this guy was stronger than any other player in college football, D1 or otherwise. This guy was a mauler in college, and like you said, bided his time. Now he's playing pro football with Orlando, and that it's just he's a very cool story, and the story that you guys again grew up together, played high school ball together. Obviously, we're still friends through college, but never played college ball together, and are now in the same league together playing professional football. Is a pretty cool story. It's one of those things that you hear on a broadcast, like, oh yeah, these guys played high school ball together. They went to college together. What, you've heard the story, and it's always kind of a cool full circle thing to be like, wow, wouldn't that be nuts if like you and your buddy from high school ended up playing in the NFL, in the MLB, NBA, whatever, and you guys are doing it in the XFL. I think that's ridiculously cool.
Yes, I love it. It's really cool. So
other updates from the XFL. I know tonight we're recording at about 7:30 Central Time because you had a meeting with some bald Samoan dude.
Yeah, so it was the league kickoff. So it's like the first event of its kind to have every member of every team in the league in the same building. So we all, got there. They had some food for us. And the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was there, and that was pretty cool.
Who?
Dwayne,
I'm playing.
Dwayne Black Adam, you might have heard.
Yeah, I know the Black Adam. Just the Rock fella. I don't.
but very surreal. Again, to see him, like you see him all the time in movies and stuff, and technically he's our boss, so jokes are made about him being our boss, and but really cool to just hear him talk about like his motivation to create the league, the steps he's taken to get the team around him to make sure this league is successful is really cool, and he's fired up about it, and he's there. He was saying that he's going to be at every game, so for every team. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to split up because I'm pretty sure there's games at the same times, but it'll be cool.
Cities. It's not like the USFL plays in the same city, but represents others, and that's feasible. This is like you said, the last update we got, like you guys are playing in DC, Orlando is playing in Orlando, etc. Like that's going to be impossible for him to do all those things.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it boils down to the schedule. I think there's some weeks where there's like a Thursday night game. There's like I know the DC Defenders have the only Monday night game. So, I guess there's ways to do it, but I guess it depends on the week too. But nonetheless, very cool to hear about the process of, who's involved in the ownership of the league and how they set out to do this. They just kind of gave us an overview of it, and they're rooting for us as we finish up camp here and roll into the season.
And the offensive installment and all that stuff still rolling along like it should be.
Yeah. No.
Any new surprises or wrinkles or anything like that?
No. Pretty basic. Just kind of. Yeah. Just for this type of offense that we're running, I guess it's standard. I've never been a part of an offense like this, so it'll be interesting.
Certainly. All right, with that, let's roll right into the show. We have Count Your Wins first. It's how we start the show every week. And Tyler, since you haven't been here for Count Your Wins in it seems like a good amount of time, let's count your win.
So this didn't happen to me like this week. It was a couple weeks back, but I haven't been here. So
part of the benefit of missing an episode.
Yes, right. But for those that don't know, I run my own record label, Broken Record Music Club. Shameless plug.
You should. Here's the thing: you haven't plugged in. We've been doing this for 20 episodes, which is what, almost 5 months. You should be plugging this all the time. I don't think you've plugged this enough. This is 33% yours, and you don't plug like one of the biggest things that you do in your life.
Yeah, well, as Ryan said, I run my own record label. It's called Broken Record Music Club. It's music for whatever you're going through. That's our motto. We're trying to bring music to you that is for any mood, good, bad, sad. We got it all. We have a unique roster of artists, ranging from psychedelic rap to heavy metal, and it's great. It's very fun to be a part of. But part of my win this week is that recently, being in Dallas has allowed me to see a few of them in person for the first time. The first artist that I signed that's still with my label, his name is Super Saiyan. I was able to meet up with him in person and just interact with him and work across from him and be there. I was actually there the day he released his new single, so we were able to celebrate. I got him a bottle of champagne for his accomplishment, because he's put in a lot of work the past couple months. I saw 14th Angel, who's another one of my artists. Saw him for the first time, and the newest manager as part of the label. Her name is Angela Lawson. She's awesome. She's been helping me because of my commitment with the XFL. She's been able to take some stuff off my plate for me, which has been amazing. And to be there and work with her was really, really good, because I know I made the right decision in bringing her in. So it was an awesome time. It was cool. We did a lot of different stuff. We had meetings. We took pictures. I've never had professional pictures taken of me before.
Okay.
But we did like a little photo shoot, and that was kind of cool. I didn't know what to do with my hands some of the time, but
Dude, we talked about it last week. I was on TV, like a TV station came in, and I did the thing. I was like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
I think we have a couple of pictures like that where we didn't know what to do, and we just kind of standing there.
So these artists who are trying to make it in the music industry have never met you, and they trust you with their musical guidance to some extent. Why?
I think it's because of I think the nature that I go about it, right? We do everything virtually, but I try to be very upfront and make sure that the label is very artist friendly. A lot of, if you listen to like the big music industry, like news, a lot of issues have been coming up with artists with their contracts or being tied to a label for too long. We try to make it more.
You've seen it happen, I think, a lot, especially in the past 5 to 8 years, right? Like you look at a person like a Chance the Rapper, who tried to do everything without a label, and I think successfully did do that. You look at other guys, like I think in country music, Zach Bryan is doing it right now, really without a label or any major representation. It's all kind of a grassroots thing, and that's pretty special.
Yeah, and so essentially we're using that label as, I think it gets thrown around there. It's like this big term. We're like, there's no money in this for me. It's just like I enjoy doing this, and I'm helping them, get their, being an independent artist is really hard. Like you're doing a lot of stuff on your own. You got to figure out like your marketing. You got to make your music. You got to write your music. You got to, have a job, because a lot of these artists have other jobs that they do to put food on their table and pay for their rent. And a lot of that stuff gets in the way. Like they can't always book all the shows in the world for themselves. They can't, they don't really know how to go about growing their audience. And so that's kind of where we step in.
Yeah. And I was going to say, when you say we do these things for artists and stuff like that, like what are the things that you do? Like what when you think of a record label, I'm sure everybody out there thinks of like Jimmy Iovine and like the major record label runners out there, right? Like is it P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, whatever he goes by now, Jay-Z, all these guys that have mega millions behind them and the ability to make somebody a star with the right amount of money. You, who you say there's no money in it for you, what do you do?
Yeah, it's really just about growing your natural audience. And so like the services we offer is like we offer distribution. The distributor that we use, it kind of helps sometimes with like trying to get on Spotify playlists, like the Rap Caviar playlists and stuff like that.
Sure.
To try to get on there. Being signed to a bigger distribution network helps. We create individualized marketing plans for each artist, depending on like their vibe, their range. Like some people just strictly use Instagram, some people use all the social medias. So kind of seeing where they lie and where their fans lie, and then going out and trying to harvest more people naturally through like content that they make. And then we do like booking services as well, where we just kind of book shows for them.
That's awesome. I mean, it's the hard work you do. And I think that what a lot of people don't know about you is that you love music. And this is, I think, one of the ways that you pour your passions into it. Another thing that I absolutely love about this segment of our show is like the personal growth moments that happen, right? Like we're all young men. I'm 26, Tyler, you're 24, 25. And
25.
I think Jack is 24, right? So like we're all growing and evolving and figuring out what the hell life is. And like to have moments like these, I think is always special. I think a lot of our listeners probably have a similar experience in life right now. So I think that this is a fun moment to kind of look at the camera specifically to you listening or you watching and say, if you have a win, leave it in the comments, share it with somebody. Maybe we'll interact with some of that moving forward. I know that sometimes we get some comments on the podcast. We don't always address them. So if you got a win that you want to share with the Hangin Banners boys, we will be checking those. We will be reacting to those and possibly even read them on the show. So bring those to us. Let's count wins together. My win for the week is not a personal one in terms of growth, but it is personal in terms of self-interest, right? So country music in March is going to be incredible. Not only did we find out the other day that Luke Combs will be releasing basically side B to an album. It's got 18 new songs. It's going to be March 18th is when it's coming out. Maybe I said that already. But that's a huge win in and of itself. That's my favorite artist on the face of this planet. Love Luke Combs. I think that he doesn't make a single bad song. And also, we found out earlier this afternoon that Morgan Wallen is dropping a 36-song album at once. Think again, 36 songs is what he is releasing. That is an ungodly amount of music. And theoretically, it's what Luke Combs is doing too, but it's just broken up and spaced apart by about 8 months.
Yeah. I think Zach Bryan really like brought that trend back. Like he made like a 36-song album, American Heartbreak. And now, these big juggernaut country artists obviously want to reward their fans. I know Morgan Wallen hasn't really put out much new music recently. So giving 36 new songs is going to be great for his fan base.
Well, and that's part of the Zach Bryan effect, right? Like he has had such an impact on so much of country music and the way that it's being made, distributed, and marketed now because his grassroots movement is real. Zach Bryan alone is bringing people into country music at a disproportionate level. Yes, it's a little bluesy, his style of country. It's not like the traditional polished thing that you hear on the radio, but that's, I think, what people love about it. And he's giving people, like you said, a 36-song album. It's not the traditional way to go about it. The traditional way is maybe 12, 15 songs. But now I think other people are starting to see the waves that the Zach Bryan movement is making. And bada boom, bada bing, here's a 36-song album and what is supposed to be a side A, side B combo album that'll eventually end up being 36 songs. That's the Luke Combs album. Side A is the growing up side that we've had, and the new one coming out will be side B. It's called Getting Old. And so I'm very excited for all that music to come out because it means that I get to hear new music every morning when I go to work, because sometimes you hear the same songs over and over and over. It can wear on a mind. And so with that, those are the wins for the week. We count those. And again, we'll ask you to share your wins with us in the comments below, because we want to see those. We love those. Intercepted at the goal line is next. And Tyler, as two individuals that frequent the gym, two individuals that have had gym conversations on this podcast before, I want to bring up the current state of gym culture as my intercepted at the goal line this week, because a thing that I've been seeing nonstop on social media is this. I don't want to call it a revolution, because I think there's somewhat of a positive connotation with revolution, but it is something that is popping up in the masses right now. It's women in the gym putting their phone on a tripod, or just in a position to record themselves and capturing any glance that they see and posting that as, this guy is a creep and was staring at me while I was doing my lifts or whatever I was doing, and he deserves whatever, right? And just dragging this guy on social media. And there has been the relative pushback, the proportionate amount of pushback to this movement, as well as the arrival of this movement. I kind of wanted to talk about this because I'm of the mindset that you should never make somebody feel uncomfortable in the gym, whether it's a woman, whether it's a dude. Like, you should make nobody feel uncomfortable in the gym, but it is inevitable. You are going to look at somebody in the gym. There's far too many people with not enough space. You are going to end up looking at somebody, and chances are you're going to end up looking at the same person a lot of times.
Yeah, it's just your eyes are naturally drawn to moving objects, and people lifting weights and doing specific movements are going to catch your eye. So you're going to have to glance. But I'm glad you brought this up, because this is, I want to say, it's like an expose almost. It's not like like you said, like a movement, or like it's, it doesn't have positive connotation to it. It's like we're trying to expose all these women that are saying these things, or like are trying to make all these men to be the bad guy for trying to get a lift in.
It's like a lane of content now, where like girls are specifically making videos about creeps in the gym. I will also say, are there creepy dudes who don't know how to act right in the gym? 100%. Are those videos justified to throw them up on the internet? Yes, but also kind of not, right? Like, I don't know. I think that again, you should never make anybody feel uncomfortable. You should have etiquette in the gym, and you should not be stalking people in the gym. But if I accidentally glance at you and you catch it on camera and you market that on your social media by taking out all other context around it as saying that I am a creep, that's not cool. What does it say about the current state of gym culture if all we're doing is going there to do some hip thrusts, and then if somebody looks at me, now you're canceled and you shouldn't? I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, it's a public space. I think the one that really like pushed me over the edge was the girl who had like the microphone that was doing the hip thrusts, and she was like talking into the microphone like this. And I'm like, at what point, like, is it just like about lifting? Like, I get like monitoring your progress and wanting to
Definitely
to share your workouts with people, but the having the microphone in the gym, like, doesn't that like defeat the purpose? Like, you're just there to show them your workout. And yes, things happen where there are creepy men, and I know my girlfriend has experienced that before, and she's let me know about it. And it's a bad part of gym culture, but it's like the persecution of every man in the gym when there's a female in there lifting, and that's insane.
That might be the correct sentence right there. The persecution of anybody watching somebody lift is a real thing. The other day, I was at the gym, and there was a guy half my weight and maybe 2 inches shorter than me, squatting 600 pounds. I gawked at him. I watched him the entire time and just went, what the fuck? And when he was done, I went up to him and I dapped him up and said, "That's good work, bro. What was that? What was it?" Just PR'd at 605 or whatever. Like, it's crazy. I'm like, how much do you weigh? He's like, 160 pounds. I'm like, that's incredible. But like, that's the type of thing, like, you should be gawking at that. If some chick, I know some chicks out there can hip thrust 405 pounds. I am going to sit there and watch you do it because that's incredible weight. Maybe to somebody else, they're just seeing that movement for the first time and they're looking and they're saying, I've never thought about lifting weight that way. This is January and this is all popping up right now. It's January, February, and all these videos are starting to pop up right now in mass. And I think that there's a lot of people just now coming into the gym that see, oh, they have their camera set up. They have their microphone on. They must know what the hell they're doing. I've got no clue. I'm going to watch what they're doing. Yeah, I think that there is some of that. I do think that obviously there are still creeps out there, but like, this has just been something that has been on my mind. Big time social media, fitness influencers out there like Bradley Martin have even kind of poked fun at it and been like, don't look anywhere but straight ahead. You know, I digress. It's probably enough gym talk for anybody out there today. And so I'll ask you, what is your intercepted at the goal line, sir?
So, as you guys know, I'm in training camp right now, and if for those that have played football, they know camp is a grind, and it's like takes up all of your time, and it's exhausting. And I'm in the middle of it, and we're coming towards the end of it, but it's been a grind. So I've been very sleepy. I've been, pushing my body to new limits, I guess you could say.
Very sleepy.
Very, very. I went to bed the earliest I've gone to bed, and probably since I got into college. I went to bed at 9:30, and yeah.
Wow, you're an old man.
Yeah, I've unheard of. I'm a night owl, so I'm not really used to that. I'm perfectly good, it's like going to bed at 2 a.m., but 9:30 has been a change of pace for me, and it's just out of necessity. So, yeah, it's been a grind.
Well, to harken back to the reference of the Luke Combs album, we're growing up and we're getting old, brother. 9:30 for a bedtime is tough.
Very.
And we talked about camp. Obviously you get to meet up with Zay, and you guys are still installing the offense and doing a lot of fun stuff. So I mean, again, you met some bald Samoan dude tonight too. So like, there's other fun things happening too, but also like the day in day out grind of playing professional football is never easy.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it consistently now for months because you just ended with Winnipeg and you're immediately transferring over now to the XFL and DC. So it's got to be like the extra grind right now.
Yes, it's essentially running on fumes. And yeah, it's definitely taught me a lot about myself. So it's all a journey, all process.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to teach me some things as we transition now to NFL Talk. Championship weekend was this past weekend, and I think they were two good games. Obviously, one was a little bit better than the other. We'll talk about both. We'll start with the NFC Championship game where the Eagles and 49ers squared off in Philly. 31-7 was the final. The Eagles going back to the Super Bowl for the first time since 2018. I want to say, when 9-inch Nick led them to a Super Bowl victory. There is a whole lot that you can start with here. You can start with the game. You can start with some kind of anterior things that happened around the game. And that's, I think, where we should. Pre-game, Joey Bosa was at the game to watch his brother Nick play for the 49ers. And there was an interaction that happened at the gate of the stadium that when I saw it happen, I was like, that is exactly how I thought Joey Bosa would react. So there was a Philly fans notoriously just kind of feral individuals, and they were egging him on, being like, hey, how are those fines? Obviously he slammed his helmet the week prior against Kansas City, slammed his helmet and got fined and whatever. How are the fines? He goes, good, because I can afford them. I'm rich and you're broke, man. I feel like all we were missing was my dad's a lawyer, and we would have had the perfect, like, quintessential affluent white man comeback to any like strife in their life. It was so perfect.
Yeah, and if you like watch that video, yeah, I can't tell if he's like had a couple beers, and he's just like, he's in that buzz state where it's kind of anything's going to come out of his mouth, or that's his natural personality. Like you said, like, is he the big frat guy, like stereotype that you see on like social media and stuff? But the flex of the money, I mean, it's really all he can say, I guess, like because he can't really, it's not like you can fight the fan. You can't like say anything else.
It seemed like he wanted to fight the fan. His girlfriend, wife, I'm unsure if he's his marital status, but his like significant other came to like grab him back to like be like, hey, let's not fight this regular human being right now. Like it's not worth it. But he was like, yeah, I could afford it, buddy, because I'm rich. He was missing a buddy and a pal, and my dad's a lawyer, and he might have had like the perfect suburban white guy comeback to any fight.
Though in some frat cultures, you could say those were fighting words. So, I mean, he's got to defend himself, I guess. He, as a superstar, he has a certain level of pride, right? Like, and to be fair, he has made a ton of money. So
he has. I just feel that's also probably a situation that you kind of just like shrug off and whatever and keep moving. But the Bosa brothers are both kind of hot-headed individuals, one a little bit more than the other. But anyway, then the game happens, and obviously the storyline for the 49ers is they're on their third quarterback. Brock Purdy's in the game, and within the first 15 minutes of the game, Brock Purdy gets strip sacked and his arm contorts and he's out of the game. And they move on to their fourth string quarterback, Josh Johnson, who's been on 17 different teams in the NFL at one point or another, 17 different stints. He comes in, he can't throw the ball, and then he gets concussed. So the 49ers are more or less on their fifth string quarterback, which is just Brock Purdy without a right arm.
I like that image of just someone out there with just one arm, just trying to do his best.
But that's what it was. He couldn't throw the ball. There was plenty of people banging on the table for more like Deebo Samuel out of the Wildcat or Christian McCaffrey out of the Wildcat. And those things I'm sure exist in a Kyle Shanahan playbook. But, it was Brock Purdy with literally a torn UCL in his elbow. Like that's when pitchers tear their UCL, they get Tommy John. That's what happened to Brock Purdy, and he finished a football game. It was crazy.
He's got some grit to him.
A little bit. I thought a very funny part of this game that happened online was Ric Flair was watching the game, and Ric Flair had gone on Twitter to say, Brock Purdy, it's just your elbow. I crashed in an airplane and made it back to the WWE mats. Get in the game.
It's like your dad like telling you, like, I used to walk to school in the snow barefoot uphill.
This game was very promptly a blowout. I think it's safe to say the game was 21-7 at halftime, though it was, I think, 7-7 with like 2 minutes and 31 seconds left before half. And the Eagles tacked on 2 touchdowns, bing, bang. And it was very quickly a blowout right before halftime. And it was very simply a rout. I thought Jalen Hurts looked awesome against the defense that had all season long been probably the best unit in football, as we've talked about on the show previously. D'Amico Ryans is going to go be a head coach now, likely in Houston now that their season's over. That news is starting to come out. I mean, they had a phenomenal unit there. They got by with quarterback play. Like I don't think that there is an accurate descriptor for it. Is there, Tyler, of like their quarterback play? It was just simply quarterback play.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, being on your fifth guy, like.
Oh, I was talking to somebody waiting in the. Because somebody made it. Somebody made it to the show. It's Jack Coachman with a haircut.
Hey.
Making his way into the show. This is a new thing to me, having somebody join mid-show like this. But Jack, welcome in.
Thanks. And hello. How do I sound? You don't get to do sound tests. I'm live now. I just showed up with AirPods in a hotel room.
A little fishbowl-y, but like we said to Tyler a couple of weeks ago, 50% of Jack Coachman is better than 0% of Jack Coachman. We're in the midst of talking about the Eagles' win over the 49ers.
Yeah.
And specifically, we're talking about the quarterback play of the 49ers and how it got them to this part of the season, and that there is really no descriptor that you can add on to the 49ers quarterback play. It's just they had quarterback play that got them to this point. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was just quarterback play.
I mean, you got to feel pretty lucky that it worked out the way it did with Brock Purdy, and you were really on borrowed time. Like no team who gets down to their third quarterback is expected to even make a playoff run, but their defense did well enough, and Brock Purdy did enough to do that for them. But once he went down, you kind of were like, "This is the end of the line. Like this, is all stuff comes to an end."
Well, and once you got,
it was crazy too, because I was even seeing on Twitter during that game, like, Brock Purdy's down. Everyone's like, live bet the Niners. Niners aren't out of it. Like, that team is so well built fundamentally that they weren't scared of Josh Johnson, who's played on 92 different football teams in his career, right? Like, you talk about running back being replaceable in the playoffs. Quarterback almost got to the Super Bowl with late round rookie out of where? Iowa State? Is that
Iowa State? Yeah.
So that's kind of wild.
I had also made the joke too that like they were technically on their 5th string quarterback, the 49ers, which was just Brock Purdy without an arm.
Oh yeah, Brock Purdy.
It was Brock Purdy again, but they took his throwing arm away. And so it was rightfully a blowout game, given the quarterback situation that kind of unraveled during the course of that game. You can't be too angry about it if you're the 49ers. It's just kind of the card you were dealt. I do want to talk about one other thing, because this game got very chippy at the end when the Niners realized it was over for them. Trent Williams, who was maybe the best left tackle in football, quite literally threw a human being. Like, just like I have this baseball in my hand and I can throw it at the wall over there, Trent Williams took a person and threw him. That is a crazy thing to witness and think like there are humans out there that can say, I don't want you here anymore. I'm going to put you over there.
Yeah. As an athlete, you something that has gone through at least my head is how much stronger you are compared to the average person. Because while there are people who are gym rats in their lives, like that is our life. Like all we do is lift and practice and lift more and practice more. And so there's like a level of strength that athletes have. But to see someone at the highest level move someone else at the highest level like that man is strong.
Do you know, like, so when you're a kid or whatever, it is an adult in a pool with their kid or a little kid, and they like toss them up in the air. That's how, honestly, that would be my impression. Like, oh, hey, Tyler, nice to finally meet you in person. I'm like, I feel like that. Sure, pro football player. You could just toss me up. I'd be like, wait a second, we're not in water though, right? Like, and then, like you said, there's just levels and levels.
Uppies.
I'm finally ready for my Simba moment.
No, okay, but like for context, right? The first time I met Tyler Witt, and this is for all like this is a deep cut for anybody who listened to the Missed Call podcast who's now listening to Hangin Banners. The first time I met Tyler Witt, it was part of one of our like harebrained ideas that Tyler Witt was going to give me a punch, right, in the chest. And he did it, and it hurt a lot. And he didn't even really hit me that hard. Tyler, you said you did 60-70% at that time. And like that was a wild thing to feel, like my chest go through my fucking spine. Trent Williams, with all due respect, is a bigger, badder motherfucker than you are. And he took a grown man and chucked him.
Violence. It's like how you have to describe it. It's just violent.
It's just violence. And that's what I got. Again, Eagles going to the Super Bowl for the first time since 2017, 2018, whenever 9-Inch Nick did it. Either way, we move on to the AFC Championship game, which I think is probably, and it is, the more contentious of the two games. I thought it was a great 3 quarters of football. And then the final 15 minutes will probably be something that we talk about for another calendar year, the way we talked about the overtime period between the Chiefs and Bills a year ago. Because I think that the officials quite literally stole 15 minutes of football in this game. It was very poorly officiated. One of the most poorly officiated games I've seen, at least one of the more poorly officiated 15 minutes I've seen on this scale. And Jack, you can laugh it up and yuck it up. Like, this is your Walter White moment because you're a Saints fan and you've seen stuff like this.
No, not even that. It's just, I feel like, and I could be wrong because I don't keep track of this. This is the most outrageous officiating game since I saw football last time. And that was the most outrageous since I saw football a month before. Like, how do we keep always having the most outrageously officiated game? At some point, it's not that, right? But sure. I am interested to hear. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go on. I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
No, I will. I mean, I think if you look even at just the final 3 minutes, right? I am, and maybe this is more my issue as looking at this subjectively, right? From my point of view, is that I personally, and especially in championship games, you let some things go. Like, there are just things that you choose to let go. I felt like there was some things that they were willing to let go on one side, and on the other side, they weren't willing to let it go. Joe Burrow in the final 3 minutes got absolutely crushed by Frank Clark. And no roughing the passer penalty was called. But earlier in the game, we were seeing roughing the passing against Pat Mahomes. It was just kind of a not so great called game. I think the most egregious thing we saw was the 3rd and 9, where they were like, hey, we know we let them run a full play, but that actually wasn't a full play. And then, so again, it's just some of the sequencing, some of the things that you see real time in the moment that you point out and be like, this feels like we're not doing this right. That I guess really kind of stuck out to me.
So I want to hear Tyler before I go into anything. I want to hear your thoughts on it from a field level perspective.
So I agree on the 3rd and 9. I thought that whole sequence of events was just a shit show. Like, I don't know how they even were like, yeah, that play just didn't count. Like,
so do you think though that they got it? Like, my thought is, do you think they got that wrong, or do you think they just handled it poorly? Because I think there's a big distinction that people are missing sometimes. I
think they handled it poorly. Like, yeah, he ran out on the field and was like trying to stop the play, but at like that point, it's like, it's ball. Like, if they're not hearing the whistle, then that's a play. Like, you can't take that away just because you were out there. Like, yes, they could have gotten it back, but I don't know. I think that whole sequence of it just shouldn't have happened. Like, it either, he was really late signaling it, so that's on the ref. I think some of the other stuff, though, in the grand scheme of things, like the block in the back of the punt return that was uncalled, like, you're not going to be able to see everything all the time. And I think that, like, the instant replay and stuff like that, like being a fan at home, it makes it easy to pick stuff out and be like, oh, well, that's like, that should have been called, but it wasn't. In the grand scheme of things, these are people running down the sidelines, and they're like looking for specific things, and sometimes they miss them, and it happens. Like, they're getting coached up this week, like, hey, you can't do that, but they were able to get away with it just because the refs didn't see it. Like, should have there been a call? Yes, but to expect perfection on every call is, like, I think a little bit of a stretch.
And I'm not expecting perfection, because I don't think the process, the concept of having officials, having umpires in a game involves human error. But sometimes there is a line that you cross when human error starts to be too much. Like, again, you look at the final 3 minutes. You have the non-roughing the passer call against Joe Burrow. You have the block in the back on the punt return. You have the non-holding call on 2 different players during that Pat Mahomes run off the right side. And then
I want to pause you on that one. Because I read quite a bit on this, and I don't fully understand it because the actual body mechanics. My understanding is those should not have been called holding because of rip moves, right? Is that incorrect?
That's correct.
Yeah, those were actually not missed calls. That was misobservation. So that I didn't mean to cut you off on your sequence, but I think that speaks to the larger issue, which is I think we see on Twitter. I looked and it's 50 tweets that I missed in the span of a minute of everybody going oh my gosh, how do you mess that up? But then it's the rules were actually followed correctly, but it feels bad, which is almost harder to swallow as a fan. That I don't think the officials, the roughing the passer probably is an incorrect, that was a bad non-call.
It was 3 steps.
Right. The block in the back on the punt, those are that's they get them sometimes, they don't get them other times. But by and large, there weren't too many incorrect calls, but both NFC and AFC championship games felt like they had officials that weren't convincing us that they knew what they were doing. And I think that's the harder thing as a fan, is they did a bad job of doing a good job, right?
Well, and I think that's consistency, right? Convincing me that you know what you're doing is consistency of all calls. And I think that there was times when there wasn't that consistency in both games, especially in the AFC championship game. And I think that it really reared its head in the final 15 minutes with the multiple 3rd and 9s, with some of the calls, albeit some of them a little gray in the final 3 minutes. And then I think that, you had to call the unnecessary roughness on the push by Joseph Asai. But that was also even a borderline one where I think Pat Mahomes sold it a little bit. And I've said, as a broadcaster, as a podcaster, as just a fan of sports, that extra tool that a lot of players have now is the ability to act. It's if you think about a baseball player as a 5-tool guy, you might actually say that there is a 6th tool, probably not as important as power, fielding, whatever, but acting and knowing how to sell a call and knowing how to sell being hit by a pitch or any of that. It's part of being an athlete now.
Well, and it's us common folk can't really ever grasp the deeply rooted knowledge of the game that so many professional athletes have. To see Devonta Smith in the NFC Championship go to his team and be call a play, because he knew he didn't catch that pass. We don't always catch that on first go, but these guys know when they did the thing or didn't do the thing that they were supposed to do. And so it's there's a little bit of salesmanship to it, but it also is that holistic understanding of body is I know what happened more than 99.9% of people in the stadium. How do I leverage that as a player? Which I do actually agree. I think it sounds weird to say, but that's a skill. It's game IQ, right?
To just add to that, as a player who's been in different offenses, typically if there's a contested catch, they tell you go right now. They're either going to call it or it's going to stand because you're running the play. So, you're really just trying to stress the other team by making them make the quick decision of challenging or not without a good look at it. I think that's more gamesmanship than acting per se, but I think it was a smart play nonetheless. I think that was good on Devonta Smith's part.
And maybe it's a Venn diagram of sorts, right? The gamesmanship, game IQ, acting. I think that there's maybe a Venn diagram of sorts that exists there where, yes, some things are gamesmanship and knowing your sport and how to act. And the other thing is knowing how to act, right? I think that maybe that does exist. All the things that we're saying can exist together.
And it impacts how we see it as fans, which I think speaks to these holding calls on the last plays, Trey Hendrickson, former New Orleans Saints legend Trey Hendrickson, right? Great defensive lineman, but part of why they made this rip move not counting as a holding thing is because what it does is it positions the offensive lineman to either commit what normally would be holding or make it really look like it's holding. And so they made this rule to counteract what was defensive gamesmanship, right? So it's like you have this give and take where as fans, we can't always keep up with it. And so it just looks wrong. And sometimes the balance tilts more in favor of one team, even though it might not have actually been that way. That's the taste that's left in our mouth because that's the last 3 minutes. That's the last 30 seconds. But it's like you go back and there are reasons for these actions and counteractions.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to talk about from this game was obviously stemming from one of the penalties towards the end of the game was the unnecessary roughness call committed by Joseph Asai. And the storylines that have kind of now branched off from that specific incident, right? And the conversation that now needs to be had, I think, about players' mental health in situations like these. So again, just to run down the situation, Patrick Mahomes off the right side, looking for a first down, looking to get the Chiefs in field goal range, is shoved out of bounds last second by Joseph Asai. Was it a position for an unnecessary roughness call to be had? Yes, 100%. The flag should have been thrown right there. Joseph Asai commits a 15-yarder. Harrison Butker goes on, kicks a walk-off 45-yard field goal. Game over. And immediately the camera cuts. Joseph Asai is on the bench with his helmet over his face. He's sobbing. He's being consoled by one team member. Everybody else is gone. There's the videos that come out after the game of Jermaine Pratt, literally the guy he works next to in the defense, screaming and yelling like, why the hell would you touch the quarterback? This is my last year here. Why would you do any of this? And blaming it on one guy. And then the media afterwards. It's just, there's so much to kind of unpack here. And I think, again, the most important thing to kind of talk about here is like the mental health of a player, right? Like that's the first thing that I go to is like, yes, I feel terribly for this guy. Yeah, they're going to show the video of him crying. We see these videos pop up every year after a team gets bounced, but like we never check on that guy and say, hey, are you okay? It's always the media asking afterwards, do you feel bad about what you did? Like that's so gaslighting. You know what I mean?
At the end of the day, they're doing their job of trying to get sound bites, trying to get all those little things. And that's the big issue. And not coming, like just being from what I've seen, like they're going to do their best to get their story. And then that's it. Like you said, how many times do you hear about that guy again? To be in that locker room and like to know that person, right? Like that's probably the worst day of his life, knowing
and
that
he had a great game up until that point.
Yep. They actually, on the broadcast, they were talking about how well he had played until that happened. Like immediately, like up until the snap of that final play, they were talking about him. And one mistake and everyone so like there's kind of levels to it, right? Like the locker room standard that they set for themselves and then like the media outlets like standard for it, right? Like as a teammate, I think that yes, the outburst by his teammate was not necessarily right, but he certainly has a right to feel that way because yes, like you do your job. That's not part of your job. Don't hit the quarterback.
That might be more excusable than some reporter who wasn't on the field and hadn't been going to war for 18, 19 weeks coming out and asking some very pointed question. I understand you're looking for your soundbite as a journalist, but there is definitely a line of like, I should treat this other person with respect. Because he is a person. He's not just an athlete. He's a human being that now has to live with this mistake and essentially, right, losing this game. Though, of course, there's the concept of a team sport. There's so many other things that happen regardless. But, like, I don't know. I just thought it was a poorly mismanaged situation on a lot of different fronts surrounding that last play that Joseph Asai roughing the or unnecessary roughness call.
Well, and then you go even a level higher, right? And it's like in defense of the journalists and the question askers, right? Is like they might not even really have the choice on whether to ask that. I'm reminded of Naomi Osaka had a major women's tennis player had a major media tour a few years ago of she was going through a lot of mental health problems. She had been at the top of her game and started to slip. And it was just this like combative, she felt like people were trying to get at her in press conferences. And all of a sudden she made her availability less and less until it was, I'm not answering questions anymore. And so there's that balance of like, as far as the newspaper, it was, I think the major one was with the Cincinnati Enquirer when she was playing in the Western and Southern Open. The guy says, I have to ask these questions. I'm not doing my job if I don't ask these questions, but I totally understand why somebody wouldn't answer them. But all it does is create awkwardness for everyone. And then that cycles either up to the like top of the journalistic chain or the absolute bottom, which is us, the consumer, because especially in the got to know it all right away, we all want to know like, oh my gosh, what is this guy thinking? When in fact, it's just give him a day, give him a week, maybe give him a month. Like this is very likely, he's 22. He got drafted last year. This is very likely the biggest game he will ever play in his career, right? Like let it sit for a little bit.
To a lesser extent, give him an hour, right? Give him an hour to sit with what happened. I bet you they asked him that question 30, 40 minutes after the fact. Let him live.
And the thing is that these athletes, they're going to have to give up their time to these reporters regardless, like whether they want to or not, no matter, like it's going to be fast and they're going to have to face the media. So I don't know, I think that there just needs to be more grace to an extent, right? Like understanding the situation that's a human. Yeah. Okay. He messed up one play after having a phenomenal game, but like give the guy a break. Like you said, he's 22 years old. He's first season, the biggest game of his life, adrenaline pumping. He's, games coming down to the wire. He's pursuing the ball. He didn't see Patrick Mahomes step out of bounds. Like it's tough. It's a tough situation to be in.
And I mean, what are the chances too that like you think about, oh, well, what about these poised athletes who handle tough interviews well? At a certain point, not everybody on the 53-man roster has equal media training either, which in the limited time I've spent in professional sports, it's a big deal because some people, whether they're comfortable with it or they're numb to it, they're used to the mechanisms. Something tells me the essentially redshirt rookie right defensive end for the Cincinnati Bengals doesn't have the same media prep as Joe Burrow does or as Pat Mahomes or even as like a Chris Jones or somebody who's been at the top of their game long enough that they've gone through this before. So there's also the context of not everybody knows how to handle a pool of sharks waiting to chomp, right?
Very true. These are all, I mean, this again, I always find it important when we're talking about the possible mental health topics as it pertains to players in these big situations, and then seeing the immediacy of like the media coming in and like you're saying, like the sharks come in and come in to feed right on these situations that's information again that they have to get. But again, there's I think a specific way to go about it where all parties can be respected and still all parties get what they want. I just find it important to talk about these things, especially given the fact that we have a platform. We've created a platform. Let's talk about some of the more important things, like players' mental health. Maybe some of the things that are a little bit less important stemming from this game is the fact that Tony Romo, I think, wanted to say the N-word at some point in that game.
That was wild.
Wasn't it?
That was wild. Because like,
where else was that sentence going? Where else was that sentence going? Neither do I, because what are the odds that Tony Romo uses the N-word with such frequency in his life that he almost slipped up on a national broadcast?
Well, more importantly, what are the odds that with him being teammates Des Bryant, Terrell Owens, how would we not have heard about this by now? That's my thing, right? It's like he could definitely say it, but somebody on his team would have said something, right? So I think it was just you go to say a word and a random letter comes out. Maybe it happens to me once in a month. Maybe it happens more to other people, but I don't believe that that's what was going to happen, but that clip is so damning.
It is. And for people to take it, and now there's so many parodies of it, of, I guess black people responding to it and being like, Objectively, it is a funny situation. The other thing that I wanted to talk about briefly, because we still have some other things to get to in the show, is the after party at Arrowhead, not Burrowhead, Arrowhead. I don't want to get smacked by Chris Jones. Was very fun, but also when you're 1-3 against an opponent, understandably, you won a gigantic game and you're going to the Super Bowl, and you should celebrate accordingly. When you're 1-3 against an opponent, I don't know that you can necessarily take back the rights of Arrowhead from Burrowhead when he has still owned you in a lot of other situations. Maybe that's just me as a biased Joe Burrow fan.
They're 1-1 in Kansas City. There's a 500 record. Two of the wins were in Cincinnati. So, yeah, you took it back, right?
It doesn't really matter unless it's the season's on the line.
True. Very true.
Right? They're 1-0 in their last one. That's what's important.
Yes.
Travis Kelce, speaking, I mean, this is a full circle moment for the podcast with us talking about the bald Samoan man earlier, Tyler.
I can't wait to listen to that.
Well, it's The Rock.
Oh, I was like, I don't know where this story goes.
But Travis Kelce on the stage getting the Lamar Hunt trophy, pulling out a deep cut from like old school The Rock and the WWF, talking about, you better shut your mouth, you jabroni.
I loved it.
Oh my God. Him and his brother, if you give him a microphone, it's like if you give a mouse a cookie, if you give a Kelce a microphone, good things will happen, man. That's just always great.
It was between that and the little dance that Jason Kelce did after, the little hip thing.
That was good.
I love that.
And just the copious amounts of shit that Frank Clark was talking after the game. Like every reporter he talked to for 2 minutes straight about like, these boys don't know what they were coming into. Burrowhead, my ass. It's Arrowhead. This is Chiefs Kingdom. Fuck you thought it was. Like he was just going in. Patrick Mahomes' dad was talking shit with the media afterwards, smoking on that Burrow pack. So much fun, dude. I love when moments like that happen.
I mean, like you said, they do deserve it. They put in a ton of hard work, and to do this like multiple years consecutively, like to be in this position, like it's no easy task. Like it's the culture in the locker room. It's the standard that the players set for each other, and having that accountability like that. And it's all worthwhile when you get to, drink beer with your friends after the game. So, and you get to go to the Super Bowl.
That's kind of like the cherry on.
It's funny too, because you see all of this energy and excitement from the players. And if you look around like the coaches in the NFL, you'd think this has got to be a Mike McDaniel team. This has got to be a Sean McVay, like coaches who match the energy. And then you see it's Andy Reid. And I think that speaks to part of the problem with these young, creative-minded modern coaches is the old guard is not out of touch with players necessarily. There might be some of them, but Andy Reid has been a very successful head coach in different places for a long time. And you can see that he just lets these guys be.
The cheeseburger man.
The cheeseburger. What a good quote.
All right. Championship weekend was a success. Do you guys remember at the beginning of the year when we were all like, is Patrick Mahomes going to be able to keep doing it? And here he is in the Super Bowl in what was the more competitive conference this year, the AFC. So good to see Kansas City back in it. We'll see the Chiefs and Eagles in 2 weeks. We get the Pro Bowl games, the
skills competitions are all on Thursday, I think, right?
We're not watching that. We won't be talking about that next week. Actually, next week is episode 21, and with the podcast officially being of drinking age, Tyler, we figured we'd have a drinking show. We decided that last week. So,
I forgot about that. I kind of hit that one a little early tonight, but I'm back.
We're all gonna get a little smashed up next week and have an episode, okay?
Smashed up. Okay.
Yeah, maybe somebody gets a little bonked. Who knows?
Wow.
Tell some old war stories. I want to get to grinding my gears before we bring this show down the home stretch. There was a situation that played out in NBA basketball. NBA basketball is redundant, but there was a situation that played out in the NBA over the weekend that I just have to bring up because it truly grinds my gears. LeBron James grown man in his 40s, was fouled with an opportunity to win the game against the Boston Celtics. Upon being fouled and upon no foul being called by the referees, who's texting? Jack, are you texting somebody? What's going on with my...
Oh, you just stopped talking with all.
Maybe it's just a me thing. There's like a tapping coming through.
You're muted.
Very fun.
Button. Okay.
I'm not sure what the hell's happening. But there was no foul called on LeBron James. This completely derailed everything that I was just doing. I have no idea what anybody was just doing. All I heard was this tapping in my ears, and I was like, I have ADD. I can't focus on what's going on.
Your gears are literally grinding in your head.
Right. Okay. Reset.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about the reaction that LeBron had after the non-foul call, like a toddler level tantrum from a 40-year-old man upon not being granted a foul at the end of this game that ended up going to overtime. It's not like they lost the game right then and there. The game went to overtime. There's still more basketball to be played. Patrick Beverley took a camera from a photographer on the court side and showed it to a referee. Got beat up. Like,
That's so awesome. Oh.
It is a top 5 basketball moment for me. It's like up there with the Malice at the Palace of just like absolute absurdity. But like, when I say that I can't stand NBA basketball, this is why. Like, yes, there is pouting and some antics in football, but it's never like nobody falls to their knees, puts their head on the ground, puts their arms to the sky, ask God why there wasn't a foul called. Like, nobody does this. To the best of my knowledge, it doesn't happen. This kind of stuff happens every single night in the NBA. This is why I can't get into it.
When you do that pose, actually, the first thing I think of is a receiver on the ground who wants PI and is like looking around at everyone and like it definitely happens. I understand the magnitude isn't as big as this LeBron one, but I think as far as commonplace, like you can get some complainers on the offensive side.
You can definitely get complainers, but I'm talking about like full on theatric performances that could win Tonys.
Sure.
Like LeBron James did like a dance scene from Les Mis. I don't know if they do dance scenes from Les Mis, but like he just throwing his body around. I don't know, dude.
They do.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all worldly and shit.
French Revolution.
Yeah.
All that jazz.
Well, isn't that French?
LeBron.
LeBron.
All of this is just to say that the NBA and their players, some of their players, really just grind my gears.
Tyler, you're about to say something. You go.
Oh, I don't really watch NBA basketball. I think for this reason, like it doesn't. There's just a lot of theatrics. I feel like that go into it, and it's typically revolving around these superstar players, and I feel like LeBron is always in the center of it. So I just kind of stay out of it, and I just sit in my bubble of uninformed basketball stuff. So I'm happy to be there.
So I have 2 immediate counters because I know we don't want to go too deep into this. The first one is an on-field one, which is LeBron is obviously going to be the most scrutinized player because if he's not your number one, he's very high on your list of greatest basketball players of all time. And he is probably the greatest currently playing, right, on a historical level. So already he's getting more attention. If you were to come up with a football comparison of LeBron, it would be Tom Brady, who we have watched spend 90 seconds talking to referees, holding up the entire game because we don't even know what call because the announcers are like, he's just there talking. So you can't pretend it's not in football, at least at that level. Because if you want to go LeBron scrutiny, Tom Brady, easy comp, it happens. It's less dramatic, but it's almost more irritating to watch because you're like, what even is your angle? But the more important second point is Ryan Sartori. I've played sports with you. I've played basketball and I've played flag football with you. And I know 98% confidence that if something like this were to have happened to you in an intramural game, you would be complaining at the other team. You would be complaining at the referee. And I'm not saying I'm different. I'm a talker on the court, on the field. I'm a heckler for sure. But it's like, don't use the grown man thing because we're both grown men too. And we've done this before also, right? So
I would like to refute this.
Okay,
I would like to
I'll give you that chance.
I am, and I say this with pride, that I play basketball like Greg Popovich wants basketball played. I am a facilitator. I am a rebounder. I play hard defense as much as I can, and I'm there for 2 or 3 real hard fouls, right? I will do everything it takes for my team to win just shy of scoring the ball because I can't do it.
But including appealing to a referee about a call that blows the team.
Like LeBron James gets to the rim.
No,
it's not a thing that I can do. So if I got there and I got fouled and I didn't get the shot up, yes, I would be pissed because do you know how much harder it is for me to get to the rim versus LeBron James? It's way harder.
Even if it wasn't you, if it was the best person you played basketball with and they were on your team and they went for that shot, you would absolutely be in the ref's ear about how that call cost the game, especially as it advanced.
We play pickup basketball. Who is officiating our games?
We played flag football. I was with you. I was always talking to the referees because
the referee was my friend. She lived 2 doors down. We rode the elevator together all the time. Of course I'm going to bust her chops.
If you just clip this component, I feel like your personality is showcased enough to show that you are susceptible to LeBron-like behavior. Okay? I'm not saying that you have done it, and I'm not saying that you will do it. What I'm saying is this is passion. It's an exhibit of passion. Is it embarrassing to watch sometimes? Yes. Was this one a little more over the top than most of his things? Also, yes. Seeing him go full like Bruce Almighty on his knees was a little crazy. But in general, this is passion for the game, and it's exhibited at all levels. If we would do it in our lives, we should expect it at the top levels as well, because it's the passion for the game that drives everyone to play.
The intensity ramp up that Ryan just had, that made my whole day.
It made my point, is what it did.
It looks like Ryan needed to take a walk, take a short break. But I totally agree with you, Jack. This is something that now here's my question for you, Jack. Do we exhibit it in our lives because we see it more with professional athletes in our current time, or is it just because of the competitive human nature?
I want to believe it's the second one. It's probably highly correlated. But I can say as both and I've served many roles in the world of sports. I've been a fan, I've been a competitor, I've been a commentator, and I've been an official. And I can tell you from all those different angles, like this is just, I think it's a genetic trait in head-to-head competition, be it individual sport or team sport. This also goes back to, let's not forget, we had a long conversation about the injustices of the last couple minutes of the Bengals-Chiefs game. Like, we are by nature, whether on field or not, critical of officiating. And the people who deserve to be the most critical, the person who should complain most about Patrick Mahomes' that unnecessary roughness at the end, is probably Joseph Ossai, for the same reasons that the person who should complain most about LeBron not getting a call is LeBron. Even though he does have a tendency to whine a bit more than other players, it logically checks out. It emotionally feels off sometimes, but it logically is there. That's just part of competition. That's what I think. And I'll also, I'll defend NBA basketball as exciting. And I think that we were a little hyperbolic on how much more dramatic they are than other sports. But I also think that is the closest thing in team sports we have to just like guys, they are not wearing, they're not wearing full pads. They are going run this way, nonstop, right? Like that is as gladiatorial as any of our major team sports get. All right, I'm done.
I'm honestly just playing. I was just playing a role. I like that. I can't wait you're here to check me. I like sometimes that you're here to check me. There's other nights where I wish you would have stayed out to dinner with your family and not showed up halfway through the show.
All right, low hanging fruit. What we got?
Low hanging fruit. Tyler, I want you to go first. This one's kind of interesting.
Yeah. This headline reads, Kayvon Thibodeau dead at 22.
Wait, what?
No, not really. This is low hanging fruit.
This is low hanging fruit. It's not.
Oh,
Kayvon
not
Thibodeau
hang
is
a banner.
He's not really dead.
But he got dragged on Twitter.
But that little bird app took him for a ride last night. So
Jack, hold on, Jack. How drunk are you?
No, I'm not. I have been unplugged for the last day or so I wouldn't have known. I haven't heard this guy's name for anything.
So, for those of you who don't know, and Jack, last night during the game, Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end for the New York Giants, tweeted out, way this game look, we might be better than the 49ers. That did not bode well with retired offensive lineman of the 49ers, Joe Staley.
And Hall of Famer?
Yes, he's very, very talented offensive lineman, knows his stuff.
Absolutely.
He said, you're a flash player who gets bodied by average tackles. Don't let the New York media affect you too much. Kayvon Thibodeau decided it would be a good idea to fire back, saying, who are you, bro?
He's Joe Staley. You know how many offensive linemen that you actually know their names? Very few. Do you know an offensive lineman? Do you know an offensive lineman's name that I can say with confidence most all people know? Most all football fans know? Joe Staley.
He's been a staple in the league for a long time and incredibly good at what he does. But Joe Staley had a comeback for the who are you, bro? It was enough for you to respond. Congrats on your 4 sacks this year, though. That's huge. Unbelievable numbers. And that is when Kayvon Thibodeau was murdered on Twitter. 11-18, they called it. He was flatlined. God rest his soul. Age of 22.
Did you see then that Michael Strahan responded to Joe Staley? Because I'm catching up on this. And people are saying, like, oh, Strahan got Staley. He essentially was saying, like, let the rookie be. Like, he just had a great season, great year, whatever. I'm like, wait, what? What's this where all of a sudden, who's looking at this and siding with Kayvon Thibodeau? Like, oh, no, you know what? Joe Staley really needs to be put in his place. Michael Strahan, go back on, like, Good Morning America or whatever he's on. Like, comes out of nowhere to also get messed up in this. Wow.
The people who are siding with Kayvon Thibodeau are the same people that sided with Machine Gun Kelly during the Eminem beef.
Never will it happen again where a rap beef literally makes someone change the whole genre of music they perform.
Dude, your fucking beard is weird. All right, my low hanging.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go. You go ahead. No, you go.
I'm just catching up. I like that Kayvon Thibodeau, after the Staley stuff, tweeted, I don't care how famous you think you are. If I don't know you, I don't know you. And I feel like a lot of people could handle pop media better if they took that approach. If I don't know you, I don't know you. I don't care how famous people tell me you are.
Fair. That's fair. My low-hanging fruit for this week. Oh, Tyler's video cut out. Awesome.
I'm still here.
And he's just... he is a black square.
I'm sorry.
Hell yeah, man. Low-hanging fruit this week is misspelled words. The MLB had its Baseball Writers Association of America dinner recently to honor those who had won the major awards from this past year, their MVPs, their Cy Youngs, their managers of the year, etc. And the Cy Young Awards for most valuable pitcher were both misspelled. On both of the awards, valuable was spelled V-A-L-U-B-L-E. V-A-U-L-B-L-E.
Valuable.
Very phonetical. But yeah, just, and of course we noted in our show group chat that these are just placeholder awards, and that the players will actually get the real ones with their names on them closer to the start of the season. But still very funny that the awards are just misspelled for the league too. That's like also like struggling with kind of its image somewhat, and also like, you know, trying to be super cool, and like their margin for error might be a little bit smaller than other leagues, and this might be a little bit less excusable. They just went with it.
Right.
They
Like, just
didn't
don't
do
give it to them,
anything to
then.
try to, like, they could have even put like a little paper A on there. You know what I mean? Like, somebody could have went in with like a piece of paper, like a Post-it note, and just put A on there and stuck it on the Cy Young Award. And I think people would have had more fun with that than some dude discovering, oh my God, they misspelled the award.
It also is the most universal sports award. It's not like Cy Young or whatever other player's name that maybe you could spell wrong. Most valuable player is a thing across the world, across the board. How do you get that one wrong? Oh man, that was sad.
But also, think on the back end of this. Think on the other side of this, where the people who are making this award were like, they said valuable, not valuable. They just said valuable. So we're just going to put, you make the award every year. You make the same one every year. You know what it's supposed to say. They didn't just change the spelling of the word. Do them a kindness.
Forwards the email back to Rob Manfred, like, I mean, you only paid us for this many letters. If you want one more letter, you should have put that in the invoice. Like, oh, dude.
So funny, bro. It's just so funny. That's my low-hanging fruit for the week. Let's hang a banner and get out of here, gentlemen. I'll hang mine. I've been watching The Last of Us, which is on HBO right now. It's an adaptation from an award-winning video game. I'm sure many, many people out there know that, but for those who don't, an award-winning video game being made into a TV show on HBO. There are only 3 episodes in. The 3rd episode came out last night, Sunday night. Nikki and I have been watching this, and the 3rd episode is an episode that's going to stick with me for a while. Like, it was so wonderfully done. There are episodes of comedic TV shows that, like, the full episode sticks with me. From dramatic shows, I was telling Tyler before we started, there are scenes that I remember very vividly from Breaking Bad, from Sons of Anarchy, both drama type shows. This entire episode, I don't think will leave me for some time, because it was very moving. It was very well done. It was shot very well. The time jumps, and there were a bunch of them in this episode, were very well thought out. And it was just like The Last of Us is an apocalypse game about like zombies and the fallout and stuff like that. And part of the beauty of this game, part of the beauty of what's going to be in this TV show, is that the way that life readjusts without the major cities and without technology and like without all the resources that we have at our fingertips every single day, how life evolves and what it looks like after that. And I don't want to give away any part of the episode. I want people to go watch it and experience it the way that I got to experience it, kind of just by dumb luck and watching a new show. But I would highly, highly, highly recommend this show right now. It's got to be one of the better ones on TV. That's my banner for the week is episode 3 of The Last of Us.
As I mentioned to Ryan before the show, I have not watched it yet.
Oh,
so
it is Tyler's microphone.
It is?
I think so. I don't know. I'm doing some. Maybe I'm too. I don't know.
Oh, now I know why I was getting randomly muted. Why do you keep muting me for no reason?
Just finish your thought, Tyler.
No.
It's some troubleshooting to do. No, you do it. You do your thing. God bless it. You do your thing.
I haven't gotten the privilege to watch the show yet, so I'm excited based on this one episode alone to go through it and watch it for myself.
Hang your banner, brother. I'm trying to figure something out.
It's your microphone. I just muted mine and I still heard it on my end.
Yeah, might be.
It's a lot of.
I'm like a Wi-Fi, so I'm like lagging. Tell all this to care what you say.
I say we kill Jack. It's still there. What is happening?
It was back.
I got out and it's got to be the most.
Oh, it's not me.
I don't know what to do.
I think it's Jack.
I have
All
no
right,
idea.
wait, hold on.
All right. This is an awful audio experience.
This is not the ASMR I promised at the beginning of the episode. Well, while I'm here, I'll hang my
Just
banner.
hang your banner. Let's get out of here. Hurry up.
I'm going to hang my banner for my good buddy George Karlaftis, defensive end for the Chiefs. He had a sack on Joe Burrow during the AFC Championship game. Got some very fun Snapchats from him from inside the locker room of him celebrating. I'm super pumped up for him. Rookie year, going to the Super Bowl. One of my good friends. I'm thrilled for him, and the fact that he was able to get a sack on Joe Burrow in this game was it's pretty monumental for him. So, I just want to hang a banner for my buddy.
Good. I'm happy that you hung a banner for everybody. I promise I'm listening. I am freaking out right now. As the proprietor of this podcast, the guy who makes sure the audio sounds okay, I am losing my marbles right now. Jack, do you have a banner you'd like to hang now that the robot voice is gone for a second?
I mean, I didn't, but now I do. I'm going to hang a banner for the Ghost in the Machine because this has been an absolute delight for me. I mean, we talked about the last 3 minutes of Chiefs Bengals. Please, and I know it won't make the cut because we have to be serious, but if somehow the last 4 to 6 minutes of what has happened here makes the cut, that might be my absolute favorite part of our podcast history. We're 20 episodes in, and I am absolutely thriving with whatever voices in Ryan's head, whatever technical malfunctions that maybe have infected all 3 of us. I didn't have a banner prepared. I didn't know if I'd make the show, but absolutely my banner goes to the Ghost in the Machine.
Okay, Ghost in the Machine wins. We got to go. I have to figure out what the hell's going on with anything. We'll see you guys for episode 21. We're getting drunk. See you guys. Peace.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for that look into sports, Brian. Yeah. And when we come back, we'll have one final look at weather. Stay tuned.